Coopertown Board of Mayor and Alderman regular meeting, Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. Start off with
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
our pastor was not able to make it last week, so we'll move on to roll call.
Alderman Mason.
Here.
Alderman Rundle. Here. Vice Mayor Anderson.
Here.
Mayor Smith.
Item 4 is approval of meeting minutes from the April 22nd, 2025 regular meeting. Packet. Motion to open for discussion.
Vice Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman Rundle.
Yes.
Alderman Mason.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. Everybody sign in as you speak. All right. So you have 3 minutes. You can speak. When you come up, state your name and your address, if you would, please. Judith Ethley.
So Judith Ethley, 2682 Woods Road, Town. Here we are again. Just wanted to kind of repeat what I said last time I was here, that I have some real concerns about additional driveways up and down Woods Road, clearances, sight lines, traffic, are all going to be issues on that road. You know, last time we had this meeting that we had that culvert washout, the road was in bad shape, storms, and the traffic, and it's just a problem. Drainage is a problem. So I just hate to see all that stuff get to be worse. That's an issue for me. I'm grateful that the developer has said that they want to put like 8 houses on there. That's nice. I'd like, if this moves on, to somehow get that anchored down, you know, like where they're restricted to that, because the zoning that they're looking for allows more than that, allows like double. So I have some serious concerns about that. I've just run into people in the past, and I guess I'm carrying that forward with me as far as, like, if it's not written down and it's not nailed down, if there's any wiggle room, it'll get abused. So I would really like to see some of these things kind of solidified instead of kind of starting one way and then ending up somewhere else. I don't want to see that happen, because this zoning is, would allow 16 houses on that size lot, so I have great concerns about that. And I was just concerned about our way of life. I mean, we left Hendersonville because, I don't know if anybody's been over there lately, but, you know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I hate to see that happen here. Really like it. I really like having our animals and our trees and our space and our great neighbors, and just like to see it stay similar to what it is now. I know it's going to have to grow a little bit. I would like that to be slow and measured. That's it. Thank you for hearing me.
Very good, thank you. Brad Ethley.
I'm Brad Ethley, 2682 Woods Road, so we're a package deal. We're married. We moved out here 5 years ago. I'm a veteran. I was in the Navy. I did 20 years of federal law enforcement. We moved out here to find some peace. We really enjoy our little 5 acres of having we got out here. We like to keep it that way. I know development's an issue. I don't think it has to be thrust upon us. I think it's an option that we can say no to. And we live directly across from this property. I think it will be one of the primary impact points of this development. And I urge you guys to please vote against it. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that didn't get to sign in that would like to speak? Okay. Move on to 6.1, updating the zoning ordinance tables 5A and 5C, including mixed use industrial commercial. Second reading of public hearing ordinance 2025-006. Motion to open discussion.
Make a motion to open the discussion.
Okay. All right. Kind of do this forward. Second, this was just putting out some, I think it's not here. They got some issues in there, last year.
This is second reading. Nothing's changed from the first reading. And it's a housekeeping note.
Any other comments or questions? Do you have a motion to?
Make a motion to approve 2025-006 as written. Okay.
Second.
Alderman Mason,
Yes.
Alderman Randall. Yes. Vice Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Item 6.2 is the second reading of the budget for fiscal 2026. It's in here as well. For us to review it. And a motion to open the discussion.
All motion to open discussion for ordinance 2025-006.
Okay. Second.
Also.
Nothing has changed since obviously the last time in our working session we've had, so.
No property tax increase.
And there is no property tax increase in this budget. It's
Make a
still
motion
22
to
cents.
approve 2025 status quo.
Did you get any guidance on the salary?
Yeah, we have to act.
Good question. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll please.
Alderman Randall. Yes. Alderman Mason,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. New business, 7.1 in the packet is rezone request W&M Investments. Request to rezone 15.05 acres in map 111 parcel 132.00 on Woods Road / Oak Creek Town Road from agricultural to rural residential. First reading of ordinance 2025-002. There's a motion to open for discussion.
I'll make a motion to open for discussion.
Okay. There's got a map. And the representatives here to speak, if there are any questions. Okay, so my understanding is the zoning itself, the request didn't change at all, so that's why it's back to the Boma. And it looks like there's 8 houses, right?
I'll say that I feel a lot better about the frontage on the Oak Creek Town Road, looking at the map, that he's got the long driveway, that where he says he's gonna put the houses behind the other houses that are moving in town, so.
5 acre lot.
Yeah. And the other question I had is last month, kind of hedged a little bit on working on drainage and doing that thing.
Yeah, there's a drainage ditch in place for a big portion of the frontage on Woods Road. So I think really all it needs is just clean up, redefining, and then where it ends, pick it up and go up around the turn. Because it just disappears.
Well, a lot of it too, there is no edge of the road.
That's right.
It's for lack of better words, a 5-6 foot cliff with
tree roots sticking out of it. I think the proper terminology is, you do realize that you'll have to comply with the grading and stormwater management to comply with the city's regulations
On the drainage,
on the drainage.
extending the drainage ditch along the road.
Or whatever, you gotta comply with the city's regulations on maybe having to cut that hill out and take those trees down on the part where the roots are all sticking.
Yes, I mean, as long as it doesn't interfere with any of the septic area, it's gonna have.
We're talking right up next to the drainage, so.
Right, well, some of it's gonna have to get removed anyhow for a driveway. There's a couple driveways that would hit in that area there too, so it's not that big of a deal. I guess what I'm saying is where the ditch, there already is a ditch line there. I don't remember the cross street up there at the subdivision. It kind of starts there, it runs down Woods Road towards, 257. And then it kind of disappears before it goes up the hill. So what I'm saying is all that bank, I think it's the same area you're referring to, that would have to get cut back, and then that ditch line, we could cut in that ditch so that the water doesn't run on Woods Road, it actually run on a ditch line next to Woods Road.
That's my concern is the water, the drainage across Woods Road.
Mhm.
If something's not done to correct that,
My first question is, why is this rezoning back again for failed it on March 25th, 2025?
My understanding is that he has the ability to come back if there's no changes, or if there's changes, then it goes back to the process of the meeting.
So what's changed?
Nothing's changed.
but one thing,
I never.
you've given us a conceptual.
Well, that's the thing,
of what it's gonna look
honestly,
like.
I don't know that I was ever given a reason for being denied last month. So I don't really know what again, I mean, even with this, yes, this is what we're proposing. And it is a little unconventional to have that at this point. Typically, we go through rezoning and then we submit subdivision plans after that, but trying to be as transparent as I can, that's the whole reason I submitted this.
This and you taking care of the stormwater drainage takes care of the problem.
Yes.
I don't think you're gonna address the root cause of the drainage issue.
Which is,
Is it gonna be addressed, or you say it's gonna be partially addressed? It's gonna run
no,
across the road?
what I'm saying, the issue, there is a ditch line there. That ditch line will be cleaned up, redefined. Where it ends, we will pick up with a new ditch line from there up to the end of our property. And to do that, what he's referring to is some of that bank, there's a steep bank literally right off the road that's gonna have to get cut back to accommodate room for that ditch line to go next to the road. That's gonna be down towards, just look at this. That, what I'm referring to is, there's a ditch line that runs down through here and it ends somewhere here. And then around this, yes, from here up and around, there's nothing around this bend. So this is what I'm talking about, cutting this back and doing a ditch line here, because this runs downhill here too.
There's pretty steep banking right in here too. I got out lost.
Well, this right here, right here is where, the previous owner of this little track had a bunch of clay hauled in there about 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's where I'm looking at it right. I thought we said looking at it upside down, but there's actually a tree line right on the edge of the road, right through here.
Yeah.
It's got roots sticking out of it, and that's my concern, that's gonna have to be cut back and ditched.
Well, we'll have equipment there so we can clear the whole tree line. There's not a lot of trees there. I've already walked it as far as sizable trees. There's a lot of small ones. I'd say you're looking at, from the point where you actually have tillable ground to where the woods start, there's probably only a dozen, what I would say would be 10-inch larger caliber trees. The rest of it's a lot of smaller saplings.
Are you gonna cut that, down on a little section that you bought?
Mhm.
Did you clean it up, or did he?
Actually, he cleaned it up.
Okay. Yeah, cause it's up quite a bit higher than.
Yeah, he had plans when, from what I understand, he hauled that in 20+ years ago, he had plans to build a commercial shop there to store equipment in. So, that was the whole purpose of us acquiring it, to make it more beneficial to these property owners.
It's about, 3 tenths, 4 tenths.
So, a little, it's just under a half acre.
What assurance can you give to say that you're not gonna change these pre-red zones?
The soil doesn't allow it. The zoning may allow for more density, but the soil work doesn't, and I can't change that.
That's how you say it, system.
That's correct, right,
You gotta have a primary and a secondary,
that's correct.
and that's all it's gonna allow for is 8 acres.
Any questions?
So, I have concerns about approving a mini subdivision based on preliminary plans without us having any type of say-so as a final.
I think we do have a section.
I was gonna say, I'm not asking for approval on the subdivision, I'm asking for rezoning. The approval for the subdivision will come after the rezoning.
Correct.
And it goes to the planning committee.
That's right.
But it doesn't come back to us at all.
But if he doesn't do what he says he's gonna do, the planning committee will stop.
I have that concerns about
About him not doing what he says he's gonna do.
any developer,
Any
any
developer.
developer.
So you gonna stop all development?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the process would be to come back before the committee, you'd have to submit everything through the process, just like any other development could do. So, that's the process that's in place. Any other questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve it based upon this conceptual plan map that he's got.
Motion,
Yes, sir.
second. Roll please.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller? No. Mayor Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Mason?
Yes.
Item 7.2, Trace Rod, rezone 4.84 acres on Highway 49. 7.2 in the packet. This is the first reading of ordinance 2025.05.
This is the land next to Heavy Ridge, right?
Yeah. We have a motion to open the discussion.
I'm sorry. Motion to open for discussion.
Motion? Second. Yes. That is your okay.
A big portion of this is not buildable, as I understand it.
Yeah, I think the only way, there's 2 homes you can go on, right?
Only 200.
And there's issues regarding it that was brought up, if you want to recall, the planning commission. There's some drainage was discussed, making sure that didn't impact the issue there. Obviously, you have to make sure that's all taken care of, I don't think there's really an issue, the issue's already inherently there. I don't know where to go on these now.
When he came to the planning commission, he addressed that he knows there is a water drainage issue and that basically, I'm using the term floodplain, but I don't mean to use the word floodplain.
Well, that's what it is.
He just can't
You
kill
can't go
it.
that far down. And then the soil for the septic and all that, too.
When we first went to do this, we went 4 homes on it,
So.
so that's what was found. And it was flooding. The creek went around the entire property on the backside of it. Well, that's why it's he's saying now he wants to put 2 homes on it. But if it gets rezoned, he could put more than 2 homes on it.
Is there someone here to speak for, sorry. Well, you moved and I saw you back there, so. Would you like to discuss and address what the comment is?
As far as I know, just wants to homes. That's all.
But no, probably you're saying that flooding went up into that whole area in there?
It was on the lower area, closer to the creek. It didn't come up to the highway.
Okay.
It does flood right next to the creek. And I do believe if I understand Vic, I think it was a floodplain zone through that. But if she was here, she could answer that better.
Yeah, I'd have to look, but I don't think there's a flood zone in that area, floodplain in that area. I think it just, the water, builds up, but I don't think it's an official flood zone.
Big Group made an example that the water gets up over the driveway sometimes. But that's not the part that you can
Right.
build on anyway.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't say here how many homes he wants to put on. It just says he wants to rezone it already.
Yeah. The two came from the conversation at the planning committee, where that came from.
And it's a similar situation. This whole allows for it.
My concern would be honestly the flooding that there's a flood issue. That would be the thing that I would be most concerned about, obviously. So that would be my initial thoughts on it.
If what was presented to the planning commission is accurate, then I'll make a motion to approve 2025-005 based on the 2 houses that are on the road.
Okay. Any motion? Second? A second? Motion dies. The motion dies. Okay, moving on to 7.3. In your packet. Amend the zoning ordinance, section 3.03 regarding shared driveways. First reading of 2025-009. And the back part of it in yellow is kind of where the changes are. And in essence, it basically allows the shared driveways up to 3. Once you get 4, it becomes subdivision regs. However, there's a requirement to have a maintenance agreement in place on a shared driveway. So if you have more than one home, you have to have a maintenance agreement that's recorded and in place. I should be able to do that discussion, so let's do that first.
I'll make a motion open for discussion.
Wait a second. Not really, I just said, follow up on that.
We've had a lot of discussion about this already.
We did.
Do these lots have to be a certain size to have a shared driveway?
No, that's not required, recall.
I think it's depending on how it's done.
Yeah, if you got, I mean, you could have, get a zoning variance or you get, split property, you could have a shared driveway, even if it's smaller, less than 5 acres. If it's more than 5 acres, you wanna do it for however, but you have to have a maintenance agreement. That's really just trying to clean up if there's a maintenance agreement and allows one more home before you trigger the subdivisions.
It doesn't make it on the street, it's a private route.
Who's gonna enforce what they signed to maintain that driveway, have maintenance on the driveway?
Homeowners would have to do it. Our our enforcement is not going to be, our
We would
requirement.
get out of it.
We would be out of it. Our requirement is you have to have the agreement, and it needs to be recorded.
The maintenance agreement would be recorded with the deed, and if the people that live there got into a dispute, then it would be a civil issue between them. Wouldn't have anything to do with the city.
Yeah, I don't want, we don't need to do the business of trying to enforce it. It's more of just getting something in front of people like, hey, this has got to.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
In addition to the maintenance contract, one of the issues that was brought up by me was if there were existing properties that shared the driveway and a third property was intended to be added to the list, there was some verbiage that was given back to me, the last thing that y'all had, or the planning commission had, it said all three parties have to agree that they're gonna have a three participant in the shared driveway. Is that the maintenance contract? Because that's not what a maintenance contract sounds like to me. You mentioned maintaining the driveway is one thing, allowing for the third property to be added to an existing two property
So
easement.
the ordinance would allow up to the third house, like you're suggesting, but it will require that the parties have a signed maintenance agreement that's recorded.
And if there's no, and if that's not done, if one party says, I'm not signing it,
And really, you won't have a shared driveway.
well, we already have a shared driveway. We just don't want a third
For two
house.
houses. But if,
Well, that's up to you if you want to add a house. That's not up to us.
I know. But you're allowing to go to three houses now on a shared driveway.
if you didn't agree with the people that are already behind you to allow that third person to come in, and all three of y'all don't sign the maintenance agreement, then that third person can't come in.
And the city would, by virtue of not having a signed maintenance contract, refuse to issue permits to allow a third party to be built. Is that how that works?
That was my understanding, yeah. I mean, it's in this ordinance that has to be in place.
Okay.
So would you repeat that again for me? I think I understood what you said, to say it again.
So if in his situation, he allowed somebody to build behind him a shared driveway.
Yeah.
They are talking about building another house back there. But if all three of the homeowners don't enter into a maintenance agreement for that shared driveway, then that third home can't come in.
Okay.
That's how I understand it.
I mean, as long as it works like that, I'm okay with that. Thank you.
Not, we have a motion to approve the first reading.
I'll make a motion to approve 2025 years around.
And a second.
I'll make a second, as long as it's stated like Tim just stated it, but we have to make sure that that's, in there, and where one party doesn't agree to it, there can't be a third house built.
It would be 3.030 of the,
So next time, when we start back for second reading, if we can have the full ordinance so that we can really, right?
Gotcha.
That might help, that would help
Okay.
myself
Be
rather
good.
than,
Yep.
Thank you. And comment, so.
Second.
Vice Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Alderman Randall. Alderman Mason,
yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. All right. On to the close session. All right, first is your fund balance report. And then following that is the summary financial percentages.
Next month, that's, I think,
you'll see a decrease in the 123 and an increase in the 121.
So you're adding a line item increase.
It's still there, it's that money's just moving from one to the other.
And then the unpaid balance there that listed, you will begin pursuing this summer. Who enters off and reminders and things like that.
Well, on the 65%, that's well more than enough to cover the fire department. Yeah. Oh, all of the truck.
Yeah.
And,
Okay. Well, that's probably quite a substantial amount for the fire department.
Right.
Okay. That's not. Would we like one more payment on the ladder truck or two more?
Next year.
One more. Okay.
All right, any other questions on the financial summaries? We'll move on to 8.3. Chief is, on a call right now, so he's not here with us. Let's see the CRS report there is fairly consistent. And then on the calls, there's a pretty good uptick in April. 63 calls, I'm sorry, citations that were done.
Four general session here.
Sorry,
Four.
for
9 general session citations.
there's 10 for the score sheet. So yeah.
And public schools, I'm sorry.
One thing that he doesn't have here, and I know that there is some conversation that he wanted to have, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds because he could explain why that right now. I did get approval from State Rep Kumar about a stoplight to go in at the school. I don't know when that's going to be, but that's a safety issue. There's been a lot of issues with speeding going through there, of course. There was a company that came through here, and they do speed cameras, and it has the license plate readers built in as well. And it doesn't cost the city anything. They did a traffic study up there. He's got more of the data on that. There was obviously some pretty good speed that goes through there during school time. And like I said, he'd have to give me more information on what that would be and the amount of money that potentially could be generated from that, obviously. But the biggest issue is it's a safety concern up there because of how dangerous it is up there. And even if a police officer pulls somebody over during school, it creates its own issue. So I'm not a fan of speed cameras personally. However, I'm open to consider it for only school zone times only. And we want you guys to think about that and have a discussion about it, how we're going to run. The one benefit that I do like out of it is the LPR readers that we can go through. No cost to us either for that. And on these speed zones, it basically obviously alerts you that, hey, there's a speed camera ahead. Then it tells you your speed as you're coming into it. And then it gives you even more time thereafter before it actually will trigger a citation. Police department still has to approve the citation. And there is it's not 1 mile over the legal ticket. There's a pretty big gap in there. So decided for this meeting.
When I mean allowance, the speed,
Yeah, so like a 10 mile over or something like that, you got some range in there. It automatically is built in there, so you don't get nailed if there's 1 mile over or anything like that. You're not trying to create a speed trap, you're trying to be safe. I believe Springfield is potentially getting these as well, I'm not certain on that. I thought he said maybe Gallatin was or somewhere else, so. We'll talk more about it probably coming up, but I just want to bring that up as something to consider for us to discuss, but maybe not.
I think the traffic light too will help with a lot of that speed for the.
Yeah, I raised that same issue, and I guess what he said, even the other guy said, that we've already got a guard in the middle of the road, and there's people still speeding. So,
but I don't think they're gonna run a red light, so people will stop there at the red light.
agreed, but I think if it's green and, people are going through there, there's nobody there. I mean, I suspect they'll still have a crossing guard out there.
Yeah.
And they'll just turn the lights to yellow or whatever to control it, because otherwise you're gonna have too much backup. So you still have somebody probably running you currently have, it's gonna somehow feel safer with the light, obviously. Something that we can talk about, like I said, there's no cost to the city. I mean, it does, you do get the benefit of the ticket that comes off of it. It doesn't technically go into that, the speed cameras in Tennessee. But, it's a way to try to slow people down, in a very unsafe zone. He's in the restaurant now, so he can, probably will talk more about it when he gets here.
On the light, did you speak with them about having the turn arrows up there to take the traffic off the road?
They mentioned they were gonna have turn lanes. I don't have the details of that, I just got the.
Well, we already have turn lanes.
Right turn lane? To get off the side of the road? No, I'm sorry,
I think what
You have a
he's
turn
talking
lane on 49 highway coming each way.
with arrows.
I'm talking
Oh,
about the red
I'm
light
sorry.
on the arrows to let that traffic turn, because if you don't have that, you're gonna have a cluster just like you do up there at 49 Market.
I don't have the answer to that.
You go up there, you might have to set through 3 red lights before you get through, and there's no sense in that. That needs to be corrected.
I know the turning lanes were brought up, and that was, they wanted that included, so my thought process is initially, yeah, you're gonna have some turning arrows, because that was put into the plan. But again, I don't have the plan, this is coming from Kumar's office, not actually TDOT. They went to TDOT for me after the meeting in March, and pushed the conversation. So, I'll give him the credit that he's the one that was able to get the approval on that.
But if they would just put the arrows up there to let some of that traffic go, it wouldn't be so bottled up so much. You've got people sitting on 49 highway coming this way trying to turn on the 257.
Well, we're looking for right now, Chief.
And with that light staying green and all the traffic coming from this Cooktown area going through, you might sit there through 3 lights before you can ever get off the 49 highway to turn on the 257. The same thing happens on 257 if you want to go straight across. Or if you want to turn coming down this way, you might set through at least 3 lights before you can get enough traffic through there, before you can get up there to turn. And if we had arrows up there, arrow lights here, that would help most of the problem. I'm not gonna say all of it, but most of it, like it's aggravating to see that up there. I also think, since we're speaking of lights, if they change that light up there, the flash yellow on one side, red on the other, at night after all the traffic is going through, you won't have people just sitting there by themselves in a red light. Or a flashing light, and just, you shouldn't have to sit there 3 minutes for a light change and there's nobody on the road.
You talking about option 4, but
Now I'm talking about 49 highway and 257, the way they did that line up there. It does nothing but hold traffic back everywhere.
yeah, it's on
It's only mimic that here, is what you're saying.
Oh,
We don't have
it's-
any control over that.
I'd like to see lights up here with the turning arrows on, where you don't have everybody just sitting still, and only one group of vehicles go through, maybe four go through, and then you're still sitting there, the red light changes, and you let four more go through, and you're still sitting there.
I do have some information on that. The 49-257, their red light is on recall status right now, where every so often it will turn red, it will turn green. It is not weight based, it was gonna cost about $9,000. We had already spent the $7,000 doing the poles out here, plus the extra $5,000 or $6,000 on the light. It would cost about $9,000 to fix that red light down there, to make it where it would be weight distributed again, not recall status. So it would cost some chunk of change.
What if we put lights up there that have arrows?
That would be even more money. To go back and start that process over, I think would be,
You know, they could just hang another light up and let it get on the same system that the red lights run on.
I can ask Justin and Stansel, but I feel like it's gonna be a costly venture.
Because if we don't have that here at 49 Cooktown, I just say not have it. That's nothing but a big mess up there. And
It's
it's
not
not,
taking control.
T-Dot wouldn't listen to nobody on that, I talked to Doc about it, and he wouldn't even listen about it. He listened, but they didn't do nothing about it. And
Are we
no
talking-
concern for safety up there.
I already talked with Brad. I actually had a meeting, the first week of June with Brad. He's one of the top guys for the highway system. And, I'll reach out and kind of see what the plan would be, and I'll get back with you probably before the weekend.
There's nothing like a set and watch what happens.
They did do a traffic study. T-Dot did another traffic study, and they definitely deemed it needed.
Well, that was from here, Cooktown,
Yeah.
or the Scout.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the mess that it's in at 257, 49. They need to go up there and sit and watch for themselves, because I'm sure they don't believe it. You might have to sit through 3 red lights. Coming from Springfield, wanting to turn over to 257, you can't even see the traffic coming down 49, because there might be traffic wanting to turn on the Blue Island Road, and you can't see that traffic, so if you come out while they're turning, you're gonna T-bone, because they're gonna be zipping through there on the right-hand lane, go straight into Springfield, you can't see that other traffic lane.
I'll reach out to Justin and see if there's anything that can be done. Hopefully have an answer for you soon.
We were talking about the speed cameras on the school zone, and I was just kind of high level reviewing. That's a high level, that's a good joke.
I have those packets.
Yeah, I don't know if you wanna get into it now, or whatever, but,
Okay.
I think we're on the report, so I was briefing them on it,
And there's a handout, that I'll go back there to make sure you guys have a handout. To explain the reason, we did a very, preliminary traffic study. Let me just stand by. No, proceed.
No, that's fine.
I don't wanna make that number.
Okay. While we're pausing on that, do you wanna jump into yours?
Yeah, so we got a new guardrail on corner of South Walker and McMahon Hollow. That was put in middle last month, sometime. The old one, Becca was made aware of it, and it was never fixed, and then somebody else had called and complained about it, and the guardrail was sitting on the ground. One of the neighbors down there said that somebody in a semi took from 41A to McMahon Hollow to try to get around town, to back to the interstate, because it was all backed up, hit the guardrail. Neighbor said he went out there and helped him back off of it, but didn't call the police, didn't call the sheriff, didn't call nobody. So then that $36,000 bill got passed on to the town instead of onto the truck driver. So if you see something, say something.
Yeah, I think that's.
We don't have $36,000 to be wasting on guardrails that somebody's insurance should be covered. So
That's a good point you bring up, is, like we had the bridge that got hit, we got paid for initially. If the citizen sees it, they don't call or don't do anything, it is on us. We don't have insurance to fix people's damage on bridges, guardrails, and things like that, so very important to try to make sure.
the one on Cooper Nicholson, that little bridge there, that was $12,000 for 20 feet. They're not cheap. There's only one real contractor around here that does it. You can find other ones, but they call him to do it, so it's not a fair system. And if you call somebody in Knoxville or Memphis area, then they're not gonna do it for a cheap price. So it is high. Also, the new F-350 we got was rear-ended at 257, 431 while sitting at a red light. It broke the trailer hitch, clean off the ball off the hitch, punched a hole in the bed of the truck. The back doors to the dump trailer are bent in, the locks are broke, the hinges are all bent. So soon probably get a new dump trailer, because that one's got shot on, so.
Did they say something?
Oh,
Report made?
yeah, there was a Metro cop sitting across the intersection watching it happen. They thought he was dead, so he hit it pretty hard.
We're really fortunate our guys were okay. I mean,
Yeah, that's pretty hit. They had to bring the state trooper in, didn't they? And how many hours was that before he got there?
It happened at roughly 8:30. I think they back here till about 11:30. 10:30, 11:30 somewhere. So now we're down the dump trailer, hauling with that truck other than a gooseneck. And we do a lot of hauling with that trailer in that truck, so we're kind of out of that. We still have the Dodge, but
Was that the only damage it did to the truck, was the hole in the tailgate, or?
the hole in the tailgate, looks like the receiver on the truck was pushed in. The bumper, I got pictures I can show you after this if you like.
It's still driving?
Yes. But,
Still using?
yeah, we're gonna have somebody really go over that bed and make sure that the welds and that hitch aren't busted. So, I don't know if it's a new bed situation, depending on what insurance deems and what we fight for. But it's a $12,000 bed, and shoot, that dump trailer's probably $20,000 now, so. It'll be an expensive fix from insurance, their insurance. So,
Was you on, 257, or was you on 431?
they were sitting on 431, they come out by the marathon, made a left on the 431, off of old 431, got to the red light, and they were gonna turn left on the 257 to go into the dump. And while they're sitting there, some Toyota Prius or something crossed over, said he didn't see him, and he couldn't stop, said he was sliding, but it didn't look like he even checked up, so.
And they were gonna go down 257 and go to the dump instead of staying on the main road?
Either that or they were gonna go on down to the next road, or to, what is that, County Farm Road?
Well, that County Farm Road is, is
So they were either gonna
the.
turn left there or turn left at the next one. I think it was, yeah, they were in the fast lane, so they were gonna go straight and then turn left on County Farm off of 431.
anything else? Good. Chief, back to you.
Hey. That's right. So I'll kind of start it off with this company. It's a company based out of Chattanooga. They serve a lot of municipalities and county sheriffs. They just got a Knoxville contract. They're about to put 50 or 60 something in school zones in Knoxville. State law, Tennessee state law says you can put speed cameras in school zones and only school zones. You cannot put them out just to make money. This is a school zone thing only. It would only be operated during school zone hours. However, there are some benefits to it. We would automatically get ALPRs, so 24/7, 365. We'll have license plate readers. Every car that goes up and down Highway 49 will have their tag read, and that will correspond to the officers that are on duty 24/7, 365. The breakdown here essentially is they came and did this company came and did a preliminary traffic study with the speeders. There you will see 3 columns. 6:45 to 7:30 is the school zone time in the morning, and then we have 7:30 to 2:15, which is just general traffic, and then the afternoon school zone times are 2:15 to 3. Just in 5 days, April 22 to April 28 of this year, there were 24,133 cars from 6:45 a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. Out of that 24,133, 557 of those were speeding. This company, pretty much it's 11 and over. School zone out here is 20, so the 557 you see there that were speeding had to be doing 11 and higher in order to calculate speed. The second page, there's a pie chart. The blue shaded is 11 to 14 miles an hour over the speed limit. The orange shaded is 15 to 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. The green shaded is 21 plus. So those, out of those 557, 94 of those are going 21 miles an hour or over in an active school zone.
That trigger point for this study was by the middle school, so it wasn't like on the end.
Yeah, it was attached to the Apache stop signs. It was that straightaway where Apache and 49, that's where the camera was located.
That was across from the middle school.
Yes, sir, that was across the middle school. That straightaway, there, that's where that traffic counter was. So, I will say too that the way this system is set up, you have ample warning. So down the way, before you can get to the school zone, there's a sign that says photo enforced speed ahead. Then you have a couple hundred feet. You have another sign that says your speed with a radar feedback. And then you have the yellow flashing school zone. And then you have the camera 300 feet down the way. So you have to be speeding in the school zone for a minimum of 300 feet before the camera will even capture your tag. So it gives you ample warning, ample time to slow down, and it even tells you your speed if people are still speeding.
Capture your tag or capture your speed?
It will do both. It
So
captures
it's
both.
it's
It's an
gonna,
L.
LPR is gonna catch every car that passes 24/7.
Correct. Yes, sir.
So you have to be a good 11 or over before it will capture your speed.
Correct. And it is LiDAR based. It is a pinpoint LiDAR, not a radar system.
And it's only during the school zone hours.
It would only be during.
No,
That
sorry.
would be for speed in the five school year.
Yeah.
But it won't be for reading the license plates, that'll be a 24/7 deal.
Correct.
For reading the license plate,
Correct.
whether they're speeding or not.
Correct, yes. Those license plate readers, the last quote I got was about $3,000 to $4,000 a piece. So, we're gonna have $7,000 to $8,000 of free equipment with this system. There is no cost to the city at all whatsoever. It is a zero cost. The profit, this is how this works. State law says it cannot be a moving violation. So it is a civil violation. It's a ordinance that the person violated. It does not go on the person's motor vehicle record as a moving violation, and it has a maximum fine of $50. If they pay it, then $25 goes to the company, Blue Line Solutions. $25 comes to the city. They just every so often they write us that check. So that's pretty much it on that. Again, no cost to the city. There's no way in this world that I can put officers out there to issue 557 speeding tickets. This is obviously a safety thing, and so we're just trying to, we get a lot of complaints. We get a lot of complaints about speeders, especially in the morning time. It's very hard to get officers. We have maybe one, even if we have two working, we're so call heavy. We're just call to call a lot of times. Like today, it was just nothing but calls, and they're still going on as I'm here. So it's very difficult to get an officer out there to be present. So this is another like a backup solution to trying to slow people down in that area. We are still, don't get me wrong, we're still going to be out there. We're still going to be present as much as we can. It's just this is another opportunity to get people to slow down.
I saw you had one stop the other day on the speed limit. Well, my question would be, why is there only a $50 fine and someone going through a school zone?
That's state law maximum. For me,
That's just crazy.
Because it doesn't operate under the moving TCA violation, so they can't impose the state fine.
Yeah, there's no court cost associated. Court cost is, in our city, court cost is like $170. But all of our fines, moving violations are $50 fines. All of our non-moving are $30 fines. So it just kind of depends. That fine is maxed out.
So they pay the fine instead of coming to court, it's $50. Is that correct?
Right. The fine is
If they
just.
come to court, it's about court cost plus the fine.
So there is no court because it's a civil ordinance. If they want to appear in front of the judge, they have to call this company and appear in front of the judge through this company, or by the judge. It would not come to city municipal court.
And if they didn't pay their fine, then they would go to the collection agency.
Collection agency only. It would not suspend their license. It would not go on our record. It would just simply go to collections.
Like the old red light.
Correct. Again, this is just school zone. School zone. She has her hand up. I don't know if she's not asking about it.
Yeah, am I allowed to ask a question? Because free is, you know, Facebook's free too. How long do they keep the data? And who keeps the data
So
that
it's
they're
a,
collecting?
yes, it's a internal server. The server is actually in Arizona. It's not even anywhere close. They keep it 90 days. It is a 2-year contract, that they ask for, but it is a 90-day kept in a server out of state. But the company handles all of that. They 100%.
And so they would remove the data after, in other words, the license plates, all that stuff, they would remove that
90 days.
in 90 days.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you ask them to capture that and send it to you, for you to hold it if you were doing an
Yes,
investigation?
and they, yes, absolutely. He told us in our meeting that we have access. We can call their IT and then we can look at their server, look at any data. If there was a license plate that, let's say, it came through the city, and let's say someone just robbed, if we had a bank, let's just say there's a bank at 49. If someone just robbed it, you know, and there was no capture, we can go back to that company and say, hey, can we go to your server and look at this time to see what kind of cars come through, maybe matching the description that a witness saw to get that license plate. But we have 90 days to do that. So it would also serve in investigations to help solve cases.
So, one more question. So, they don't notify you if, say, perchance, they're getting a hit on a stolen car.
It's an immediate notification.
They'll notify you immediately?
Immediately, within seconds.
Okay.
It will go to our laptops in our car.
Okay.
So this isn't something that we have to vote on. I want to bring it to you guys to get some feedback and thoughts on what you thought about it.
Judy has them, and it's a very successful tool for their police department.
Now, is that in the school zones?
No, they've got license plate readers
Throughout
their whole city.
Why did it say, I thought you said that's something allowed?
That's for the speed. They have license plate readers. You can put license plate readers anywhere as long as you have all the approvals. If it's up on the highway, that's specifically what he's talking about, the license plate readers. This is the ALPR built in with the speed.
I know Murfreesboro said that Tennessee don't do it. Murfreesboro has cameras up, and they would still do a ticket if you speak to that.
If it's a school zone, they're allowed to.
They want a school zone.
I think what's confusing is they passed a law saying that you couldn't put up new ones and you can't have, once the contracts, after this certain date, the contracts cannot be renewed. So what they did is, Clarksville, for instance, I believe they renewed their contract for like 50 years, so that they couldn't get rid of it.
Yeah.
So,
I know Murfreesboro has them, and they do.
so they got it in.
Yeah, that may be a grandfather process. We are definitely not, I am not interested in doing that here.
I'm not either.
But I am interested.
But this sounds good about the school zone,
Yeah.
but I'm not interested in putting up cameras to fix them.
No, we're not interested.
No,
That is not.
I agree with you on that.
And to clarify, it's actually two completely different components that are in one box. One is the license plate reader, and one is the speed reader, that are both fed to the Arizona.
Correct, yes.
If I understood correctly, you said that the speed would not kick in unless it's 11 miles over the speed.
They gotta be doing 31 or higher to get that ticket. I mean, you have to be doing 11 plus.
Yeah.
So if you're going through there at 30, no one's gonna know anything. 31 is. I will to also say the first, if this is implemented, we put it up, the first 30 days, everyone gets a warning. So they give people not only time to see it, but 30 days after it's implemented, and then at that 31st day is when they would start getting tickets. Also, we have to do a third-party traffic study. This third-party traffic study could cost some money. However, the company will reimburse 100% if we elect to go with it. So it's still zero cost to us.
Now, is it only gonna be reading and catching the speed of coming through here by the elementary, or is it gonna extend all the way out past the middle school?
So the engineer that's gonna come right now, what this guy, the sales representative thinks, the engineer will probably do two systems. One system for the elementary, one system for the middle, because he's not so sure, because there's a curve right out here, so he's not so sure that one system will actually work. So it actually may end in a system for the elementary and then a system for the middle. But we won't know that until we get the engineer out here to look at that. And we also have to have TDOT approval. So if we move along tonight and we get that third party study and we get TDOT's approval, then we would be good to go. But since it's state highway, we have to get that involved. But more than likely, it'll probably go to two systems. But it could be. But it will capture, regardless, it will capture both systems.
I like it.
I'm in favor of it, to pursue it.
I don't have a problem with it going through, but I wouldn't want it.
We're not doing it
Right.
No,
LPR meters may be somewhere else in town, but that's not speed capture.
yeah.
Does it work in a power outage?
No, it will have to, it is electricity.
Yeah, so it's gotta have some kind of network connection, some kind of.
It's gotta have power, right? It's got built-in internet, but it does have to have power.
So it's
So we'll have to
wireless?
pull power. Yes, it's wireless.
Okay.
Well, we'll continue our conversation, but I just wanted to get you guys. Anything else? We talked about your, citations and things, anything else you want to point out on your report?
Sorry, I'm soaking wet, maybe I'm not. I had to go right.
Maybe it's just three.
I am soaking wet.
It's high level.
Oh, gosh, what's the word? Did y'all say you already ordered this?
I did sort of.
Okay.
I did not do floor, you walked down the hall.
Okay. Oh, goodness. Real quick, I will say I'm pretty impressed with my staff. In April of 2025, we had 4 officers. You have the chief, you have 2 sergeants, and you have an officer. And between 4 people, we wrote 70 tickets amongst doing everything else that we have to do. So I will give my guys credit. 70 citations may seem like a low number, but when you got 4 cops doing big things, that's really that going to do. Got some drug paraphernalia, some drugs. Let's see.
Most of the citations written on the main roads.
49, Tom Austin, those are our biggest 2. Yes. Our biggest right now that we write on is Highway 49. Absolutely. Got some drug seizures. One of the vehicles we seized for driving on revoked DUI, that was awarded to us. However, it had a lien on it. We reached out to the lien holder. The lien holder wanted their vehicle back, so they came up here. They paid the tow bill 100%. The lien holder did get their vehicle back. We have another vehicle back there, the black Mercedes. It's been awarded to us, but it also has a lien, which the lien holder does have first right of refusal on it. If the lien holder doesn't want it, it's ours. If they do, they can pick it up as long as they pay all the money that we have into it. And all we have into these cars are the tow bills, but they reimburse the city.
Charge storage.
We are not, because we don't have a fence. We're not a secured facility. We would have to be a secured facility, which would cost, the last time we quoted it was about $16,000, and that was about 5 or 6 years ago. So I venture to say it'd probably be close to 20 grand nowadays, to build a fence, to put the spirally stuff on top and make it secure to charge those fees. It would be costly. I would say between $15,000 and $20,000. So up to this point, no one's really been interested in spending that kind of money on the fence. Sorry?
A lot of money in storage.
There is, but the money up front, the money up front is kind of hard. See, we always cite people and arrest people for not having a license, driving suspended, revoked, a couple possession charges. Let's see, resisting stop, halt, frisk, evading arrest. We had a 17-year-old female who was going through some mental instability, schizophrenia, bipolar, all that. She ended up running from us into the woods. We got her, perimeter set, found her, got her to the hospital where she needed to be. We always have theft. Here lately, Derby Meadows has kind of been hit hard, just construction theft. So we've been trying really hard to ride through there throughout the night to try to mitigate some of that. And then civic applications, we had 4. And then, of course, we're always, we've got so many subpoenas in court, right? My guys are spending so much time in court. The DAs are starting to subpoena a whole lot more than they have been. So my guys are spending a whole lot of time in court. I will say that. I can't really put court hours on here, but there's a lot. So, we're out there, we're trying to be as digital as possible, visible as possible, but there's a lot going on. So, we have Officer Teresa Camp. She started 2 weeks ago. She got her acceptance letter into Toledo yesterday, so she'll be shipped off to Toledo starting July. And then so she'll get out in 3 months, and then she'll have a 16-week FTO with us. So hopefully by the end of the year, she will be solo. We have a couple applicants that came in, so whoever wants to come in, I think sometime this week will do their testing. And hopefully at least one of those will pass, or both of them. They are all uncertified. So most of the applications we're getting are uncertified individuals, which is a lot of training. So it's pretty much, I'm up to 5, 4 on the road, 1 going to the academy, and I got 2 open positions.
All right, and back is the Pleasant View Fire Department report. Let's look at that. Communication from Alderman, nothing from the city attorney at this point.
Oh, can I say something? Yeah. Just wanted to let the board know as well. Sergeant Parker and Sergeant Major have approached me with an idea about doing a story time with a cop. So I have been in talks with Ms. Hyde, which is the principal at the elementary school. They have a summer program, so we're going to try to work with her and do story time. So an officer will go up maybe once or twice a week during their summer outing and read with the kids in that summer program. That's just another community event that we're going to start implementing every summer. And then there's some other community events that we're in the process of trying to help with, get logistics behind. But that is one of the things that we're going to start this summer, here in the next week or 2, is story time with cop. At the elementary school.
Comments from you guys?
Just look at us.
Okay. So just bear with me, okay? So as I said earlier, I have vast concerns about developer plans in general and the inability to review the changes that may change the entire scope of the proposed development that was first communicated to Boma. As a governing body to sign off on rezoning, we are given proposed preliminary concepts. Then we decide based on that preliminary summation of a concept of whether or not we should rezone that land for that particular use. Yet, a developer can change the plan, and that is not what we heard or agreed upon when we granted the rezoning in the first place. But let me be clear, I'm not mad at any developer for trying to use the land that they purchased. They are in the business of making money. As an elected official, I'm in the business of preservation and effective, smart, and balanced decisions. I also have vast concerns over the pace of any new growth. We have a few growth projects underway, and we have not clearly realized any of those impacts of those projects. First, we have the passive drive-in. This could be a very positive impact in case of sales tax revenue and things like that, right? It's great for the community, it brings business, it brings that type of interest, right? But we also have to consider just additional impacts such as resources on our police and fire department. Next, we have Dirty Meadows with about 300 homes that was approved 2 administrations ago. What about the traffic, the infrastructure, the schools, the police, and the fire impacts there? At best, the town may property tax revenue. That doesn't even pay one road or pay the salary of the police officer. But yet, I would bet my own salary that the calls for service are going to increase drastically because of those 300 houses. And you can ask Chief Haley that question. So now, we have the monstrosity of a bad decision by a former administration approving 300 homes built by a builder who has no lawsuits and banned from building in other cities. We cannot continue to approve growth in this manner. I don't want to be a part of a bad administration that isn't applying foresight. I don't want to make bad decisions just because we need to generate tax revenue. So the main thing I want to point out is that any rezoning decisions related to commercial, industrial, mixed use, or high density housing projects, or even more than one house on a piece of one property, we really need to think about that. About the prelim plans versus what is actually decided or thought through for the master plan. Because plans can change. Those changes can be logical and can be required and makes logical sense of why. Yet, as a governing body, we should be privy to those changes and why the plans were changed. The Plan Commission is tasked with signing off on the preliminary plan and the master plan, yet as an elected governing body, we are only privy to the prelim. That makes zero sense to me. I understand that's the way it has been done and always been done. I get that this is a historical precedent or ordinance, so to speak. However, I really think we need to think about this. The developer is currently providing us with preliminary plans in effort to garner a vote to rezone, then why can't we, as a governing body, grant rezoning on a conditional basis stipulating the master plan sign-off? Just a question and thought as I move on. So while I understand the zoning ordinance grants the planning commission the ability to give conditional approval, in the ordinance it says conditional approval can be granted, with making notations of deficiencies. It does a great disservice to our citizens, and as this governing body, when the very first ever mixed-use request is before them, the planning commission chose to operate without, in my personal opinion, reasonable care, to ensure that the preliminary information given to them by the requester contained all the minimum requirements. It is my opinion that the committee acted out of compliance with the mixed-use ordinance. The ordinance uses the word shall contain. And Chief Haley, the word in any TCA that says shall, what does that mean? Thank you. We look at the domestic violence TCA, shall make an arrest, shall determine the primary arrester. In our own ordinance, the wording that was used was shall contain. Of which those required bullets in the preliminary plan were null or unmet. Not all of them were met. So why have an ordinance if it's not going to be followed with reasonable care? Also in that ordinance, there was a point in there that other town departments to be consulted. Was the street department consulted? Was the police department consulted? Was the fire department consulted? The committee had every opportunity to table the discussion until more information was had. By the developer's own comments, the land use intent appeared to be ambiguous. It could be this, it could be that. But, and you want a governing body to rezone a piece of property under that ambiguous intent.
Now, which one are you talking about, right?
Mixed use.
And mixed use, okay.
But just in general, using that as an example. That's just an example, okay? So, as a point of order, for the greater good of our community, I make a motion to table any discussions on rezoning of any major projects until the ordinance is updated to reflect that Boma having 2 levels of approval, or at least the ability to see the final master plan, even if it's brought to the governing body by a representative of the planning commission.
First, I will say thank you for bringing this to the table and discussing. I think that's the proper way to do it. I prefer it to be done that way versus Facebook and everything else. That's what I stated in the campaign, that I want us to sit at the table and talk these things out, so I very much appreciate it. A lot of this is new to some of us, obviously, across the board. Vicky was here, she could explain the process probably not better than I. That last night, in particular, Brian was from Nashville, from Josh, who was here, and basically stated the process that the options that the planning committee has. That particular ordinance probably needs some input. To your question about Boma approving it, so it's kicked to Boma. When those things occur, it's kicked up to us, and then we have the ability to say no. We have the ability to push it back to the planning committee. We have all of those ways that we can do that. What I'd like for you to do, if you would, after this, if you can bullet point, kind of high level what you want to discuss, because I would like to dive deeper into that and get a thought process to it, because process is important and it can be very confusing depending on what zoning and what project we want to run. I want to be very thoughtful through that process as much as possible. I do agree that the elected body should have say-so in obviously different things. My understanding is the master plan will come back to the planning committee based, and we're approving the zoning based on conceptual documents. I don't have an answer to that tonight, but I would like to discuss that further and make consideration, at least to talk more about it.
Yes, in the ordinance it has in here that it does grant in the ordinance the ability for Boma to, if any additional information is required, that, to supply the Boma with between the prelim plan and the final master plan. So it has to be, we have to request the additional information that goes in between it. But it can be provided. But it doesn't, there's nothing that says, okay, here, this is the final master plan. This had to change or whatever. I mean, and again, I'm just using one particular project as an example, because as we go forward and you think about other potential projects, it could be anything, right? It could be commercial, industrial, interstate. It could be anything. You've got to think about just in general how that works, and that the fact that while we've entrusted the people of the planning committee to do what they gotta do, and it's nothing against them personally. What I'm saying is that we are approving to rezone a piece of property, and once we do that, we can't go back on that.
So, if we can maybe have those, summarized however you want to do it, and I'd like to get that to me, and we can talk about it as a group, and just kind of figure that out a little bit more in detail. Obviously, can't do it here tonight.
Right, no.
But I appreciate the thought process, and let's try to figure it out together and see what we can do. And maybe things will change, maybe they won't, but I want to make sure that we all understand the process, and we do have as much influence as possible, together. So.
I don't understand really what you're talking about in mixed use, because this planning commission, they've been on this thing for a year or two.
Yeah.
And they beat it, so I don't know what else you want to see from the planning commission in mixed use.
I think what happened was last night, there was a very ambiguous, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's what I was using.
Ambiguous, preliminary drawing of what the 48.5 acres is gonna look like. Between now and the time that the final approval is given, some of of that may change because of the soil and where they have to put and all this, so, I like the idea of it coming back to Boma, but it is going back to planning. And the final plat has to be approved by planning before any building can start. So if it changes from what was brought in, then I guess it starts the process over. I'm not sure how that works. But I keep hearing in my head Randall Hayes saying, well, look right here on this map. Now, if we approve this map, and somebody comes in and wants to change it, and they want to rezone it the way the Vision 13 map says, we have to allow that zoning. If Vision 13 says it, we have to allow that zoning. It was approved last night, not unanimously, as has been stated on Facebook. It was approved conditionally upon some additional information being supplied.
But, and to help answer your questions, Robert, is the fact that in this mixed-use ordinance that the previous administration passed, right? They wrote it up, they passed it. Under this mixed use, and of course this is the first time, like I said, first time ever, we're gonna have some, ironing all the details things. But you have an ordinance that says that the preliminary plan shall contain the following, and it lists all these itemized bullet things, correct? And the fact is that if it's in the ordinance that these things shall contain those things, and the majority of the conceptual idea did not, and so you're now passing this idea over to us as a governing body to say, oh, well, conditionally, but I understand that also any developer has at least 60 days to basically address those deficiencies. I understand that that's what the ordinance says as well. However, I take pause with the fact that last night there was back and forth discussion over these deficiencies, and the fact that they could have tabled it to get a little bit more information before they pass it on, because there's a lot of things in here that are not met necessarily, and I'm not saying that any developer couldn't address those.
They have to be met though before they're approved for the final plan. Is that correct?
That's correct, but before the final plat, there is nothing in here. We're going to give a rezoning approval of a piece of property based on, well, it's got to happen before the final, and then we can't go back on the rezoning, is my point. And to speak about illustration 13 in front of the page here, is that that's exactly what happened last night. Is the fact that they were using the colorful map that was passed as a potential growth, 20-year growth vision plan, and they were using that as an element of whether or not that piece of property or that piece of rezoning request should go there. Now we're beholden to this colorful map. That can change.
Well, Boma can
Correct.
overturn that.
Correct.
So
No,
that
I know,
there is
but they
no
were,
say.
but the planning commission is using that as guidance.
Well, they have to
And
legally.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but my point is that they're gonna go by that guidance, then they're going to bound it up to us with potential ambiguous concepts. And then we have to then take the ambiguous conceptual concept of whether the deficiencies are met or not, and whether or not it's going to be, a Ferguson light store or whatever versus a Publix versus whatever, okay, or a coffee shop. We have to go based on that, is that we don't really know. At the end of the day, we're saying, yeah, rezone that, and we don't even know really what's gonna go there potentially, or the impacts. That's why I have problems with it. And it's not just the fact that it's mixed use adjacent to Oak Point. That could be at any potential commercial property. Even at the interstate, even where commercial makes sense is at the interstate to begin with. it makes sense up there, but as the same thing, if someone comes into that industrial area over here, the old sawmill area or whatever it is, and they say, hey, I wanna put in, you know, a granite countertop place where I wanna, you know, sell granite, cut granite, whatever, and then they change it, and now next thing you know, it's something else, right? So that's the point, is that I feel like there's not enough checks and balances, and I'm not saying that the planning commission are not rightful in their own specialties and everything like that, it's just that we have voted to rezone, or are going to rezone a piece of property with conceptualized concepts.
And usually we don't know what they're gonna put in there.
Correct, that's historical
So,
stuff.
I mean, we rezoned for that, and the planning commission is supposed to take over and that, and using your example, the granite top company does, if they decide not to put that granite top company in, decide to put a coffee shop in, is that a bad thing?
Not necessarily, but it
But I
would be
mean-
nice for us as a governing elected officials to know exactly what's changed.
And I think the answer to where you're going is, as we look at the ordinance as it's written today, we realized last night there's some deficiencies in that ordinance that need to be changed. I have no problem in the world of adding, once it goes back
How
to the
many
final
times has
approval.
it been changed?
I don't know, I
It's
just
already
started in
been
November.
added, it's been added to you though, they
Well,
spent.
But I don't have a problem with it coming back to Boma for a final approval. I mean, if that's what we agree to do. We're getting in the weeds tonight on something.
Yeah, and we did last night, and that's how a lot of this, but this is how stuff gets flushed out too, right? Is having a conversation about it. And making sure if we're wrong, we try to fix it. And we gotta be reasonable to both sides of all the stuff. And if it means that we're gonna have another step in there, fine, let's talk that through, figure out what does that do to help us, to help a development for the town and things like that, you know. That's the right way to do it.
We were also put on the clock last night, that we had 45 days to, if you remember.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, it was,
We were put on the clock 45 days to get everything approved.
yeah, the way that, again, maybe those are all discussions, you know, if Vicky was here, I think this is something that we may have to have an actual working session about with Vicky. And so the planning commission, cause you went last year to the MTS, training? No, you didn't, okay. So they do training every year, for the planning members and zoning members. So I suspect we will also do that with the board, which is fine, because actually it's pretty fun.
I've been to some.
Yeah, I think it's actually.
When I went to 2 or 3
Okay.
of the, sessions, but I think the third one, we just repeated the first one.
But it'd be good for us to go as members, especially if we're gonna start making decisions, you know, then I think we need to make sure we understand what we legally can and legally cannot do, because that's what those classes are for. So that's all right with you, let's kind of go down that process.
Just let me know that my comments are with you, for under consideration.
I appreciate that, and I think that's, if you give me some highlights of that, and then we can try to get a working session together at some point, and have more discussion about when we do the time. Is that fair?
That brings us to the last item on the agenda.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I've got some comments, and I don't want to take much time, but, this is kind of important, because it does tie to a lot of things of development and just the town in general. So, 3 weeks ago, as I was leaving the office, Vicki came out to me, and she got an email from the county engineer, that Springfield had passed an ordinance, you guys are aware of this, but now I want to know public with it, that they were going to limit water taps, and basically as of May 1st of next year, or after the gallons have been used and issued out of the permits. Whichever comes first. So that means there would be no more water taps in our town, anywhere the Springfield does in the county, that we're going to Greenbrier. So caught everybody by surprise. Because they actually passed this ordinance at the end of the last administration, and no one ever said anything to anybody until recently. So it's kind of put us into a situation where we're going to have to figure some things out. So I have met with Springfield, and had a good meeting, and we're working through some options to see what potentially can be done with them. Yesterday, Mark Green's office representative was here, and it was a meeting, started out on the zip code. They're supporting us on that, and going to help us give some good information, some contacts that we want to know. And then it just got into a general conversation about other things in town that's going on, and about the water issue. All these gentlemen happen to know, and let me back up. So East Montgomery and Pleasant, East Montgomery has a water line in town here that's tied to the water tower up there because of dirty mud. I don't know if it's the capacity of that water line to serve an entire town. I know there's a line that comes into the interstate from Pleasant that put in many years ago that they told me about after I got elected. It's 6-inch water line, I believe, so it's probably not big enough to obviously handle the town. What I'm going with that is I'm going to look at alternatives to Springfield water. And I don't know what all that means. They will consider relinquishing their territory if we went to a different alternative source. So East Montgomery, this gentleman yesterday happened to know the guy there. Was getting some calls alternatively into these places. But anyway, he knew him and him and introduced us. And right before he came tonight, I got the guy's contact. They are interested in talking with us. Taking the water. So I don't know where that's going to go. I don't know more than that at this point. But if we do nothing and going back to development, that will kill all commercial development anywhere in town, in my opinion. And if you want to build a home, you'll have to go well. And, a well, you'd have to get a well. And obviously that's, there's going to be
Interested in taking over the whole town?
That's what I've presented.
Okay.
Now, it could be a mix and match. It could be they get water from somewhere. I don't know what all that means. That's what I'm going to talk to them about, is taking over the town.
When you do that, Springfield's gonna want you to buy the water lines and stuff, and most of them are crap anyway.
Well, that's good. Good point. And we did not get into discussing pricing when I was up there or anything like that. It was, I don't want to get too far into it. The county is also involved in this, obviously. And I've had conversations with the county. In fact, I got a letter today from Mayor Vogel. They will also want to meet with me, and because I have said kind of to them as well, is there a way we can do a county water department or something? I don't know. So the county is very interested in trying to work with us and see what ideas we can work together on that week. So I'll know more about that as well. I have not scheduled that meeting. That literally came in today. So there's been a lot of movement today on the water issue. I'm optimistic we'll get it resolved, but I don't know what that means at this point. But that's a big issue. So, I think.
That, East Montgomery furnished the water, put it in one of the tanks out here. Where it can run by the gutters at this point.
So, my understanding is that there's a water line that comes in and there's a pump on it, and it does bring to that water tower up there. So, I think Springfield has access to that whole system currently. This whole issue is not a water shortage. Okay? Springfield has decided that they're going to have a lot of growth, and they want to retain their resources for themselves. So if you're outside their growth plan area, my understanding is they're not going to extend any more after that time period if you haven't already got it granted to you. So if you got it granted to you, you're covered, right? I have asked them as part of the conversation, hey, hypothetically, if we get to next year, this can't be solved in 30 days, right? And we've got some development we're looking at the interstate or something. Can we work together on this? So they're very receptive. And again, there's a lot of details that I don't know, they don't know. I've kicked some other ideas to them that are more legally, have to be discussed and figured out that would work. So I can't really get into that tonight, but anyway, I just wanted you guys have kind of been aware of some of this, but the general population is not, so just be aware that there's gonna be some conversation on it.
So with us having East Montgomery already bringing water in, could and would Springfield buy water from them, like they're doing from Todd County?
They would, but it's not the issue if they're shrinking water. They just don't want to, number one, I don't think they want to.
Because they're not getting water from East Montgomery going to Springfield.
They can on our system currently, but it's probably not at the capacity to like one on Todd County. They do have access to that water, and they can buy it from East Montgomery. But my understanding is even Springfield, this isn't that they're short of water. They've got enough water to plant 20 years, basically. They want to reserve their resources for growth, and as we all know, they're going to be growing a lot. So I don't think they want to invest their resources into our infrastructure, because it just costs them. And you're right, it's an older system. I've asked for all the details of the system as much as possible. You know, I need to know the age of the pipes, what pipes are in there, you know, is it
They
clay?
don't know some of that information, even more than that.
I will know. I talked to Terry and, you know, so again, they've been very, very receptive in these meetings with Springfield. I'm very happy to see the county is first informed us. Actually, they're the ones that brought it to our attention. Because Springfield did not. Unless they got lost somewhere in the whole mayor transition, or something. I know Becca wasn't aware of it because it all happened right at the end of Anne's last term in Springfield. Anyway, I'll keep you guys posted about it. I don't have anything else.
Motion to adjourn.
I think you're there.